Hey Virgo, welcome to Sweet Tea Astrology and Tarot. My name is Erica. Welcome to the channel. I'm so glad that you found me. This is your Venus retrograde report for 2017. Venus, the planet of love, beauty, harmony, money, and resources, will be going retrograde in the sky throughout the spring months. She's already in the pre-retrograde period. Retrograde is an optical illusion in the sky that makes it look like a planet may be going backwards from our perspective here on Earth. It's not really the case, though. The best way I ever heard a retrograde explained was like this. Imagine you're in a car, you're on the interstate, and you get behind an individual and they're not going fast enough for you. So you get in the passing lane, you accelerate, you end up being at the same speed as them, neck and neck, whatever. And you accelerate, you end up passing them, and after a while you can look up in your rearview mirror and that other car that you passed will actually look like it's going backwards. It's not, but it's that optical illusion that's created because of the distance that you've put between your moving vehicle and another moving object. It's the same idea. But with these retrogrades, there's a pre-retrograde and a post-retrograde shadow. Those are like the appetizer and dessert. What happens during the pre-retrograde shadow is usually very much like the beginning of what might be going on for you during the actual retrograde season. And the post-retrograde is like the tying up of loose ends and the reevaluation of what all's gone on. So, this Venus retrograde will be occurring for you between your 8th and 7th houses. The 8th house is ruled by Scorpio. That's the house of life, death, and rebirth. It's the house of birth as well. It's the house that governs transformation, metamorphosis, regeneration, your instincts, primal, basic, or human. It deals with sexuality and other people's money. The 7th house is the house that's ruled by Libra. It's the house of your partnerships and relationships and how you identify who you are as a human being through those interactions with those individuals. It's also the house of counseling and open enemies. I'm sorry. Zoe's feeling that full moon, and she's making me pay for doing this and not playing with her. I know, right? Choices. Venus is going to be doing this retrograde motion. The actual retrograde period is March the 5th through April the 14th. That does not include the pre-retrograde period or the post-retrograde shadow periods. Now, a good way for you to navigate this energetic shift that we will all be enduring is for you to focus on yourself, Virgo. And that isn't to say you can be a jerk to anybody, no. But in any decision that you need to make, in any situation that you need to concern yourself with, make sure that you make your decisions based on yourself, because everyone else around you is subject to change. There are some challenges that are associated with this retrograde because Venus is the planet of love and beauty and harmony and money and resources. You may be having issues with love or money. There are perks that are associated as well with the retrogrades. Anything that has the prefix of re in front of it is usually a good time to do during a retrograde. Jupiter just went retrograde on Monday and will be that way for about 6 months. And Venus will be going retrograde, and she'll be that way till I think she clears it all the way through in May. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's right. Regardless, it's a time for you to possibly deal with some reconnections and some renegotiation in the 8th and 7th house areas of your life. A good thing for you to do or to assess where you stand in a situation is ask yourself, is this worth fighting for? And that'll tell you a lot about how you feel about the situation. If it is worth fighting for, then by all means, roll your sleeves up and fight for it. If it's worth fighting for, but only after you do some repairing, then repair whatever needs to be repaired and then fight for it. Like a relationship. But if you realize that the situation or the circumstance or the relationship is no longer worth fighting for, then you should gratefully and graciously release that individual situation or circumstance with loving energy, because new stuff is coming your way. Be grateful for the lessons and the growth that those things you are letting go had brought you. It's always good to have an attitude of gratitude. Okay, now I have modified my tarot deck. What I did was pull out all of the major arcana cards, and I pulled the aces from each of the suits. So that would be cups, wands, swords, and pentacles. And I will be reading reversals as well for the spread. Okay, I was just really playing with the cards, but we had one flip, so I'm going to put that right here on my clipboard. And I'll cut the cards in just 1 second. Let me show you the oracle cards. I'm going to pull you a card from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle deck. I'm also going to pull a card from the Butterfly Oracle card for Life Changes by Doreen Virtue. I'm going to pull a card from the Journey of Love Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild. The artwork associated with this deck is by an artist named Razuli. And I'm also going to pull a card from the Divine Circus Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild. She commissioned a lot of different artists, so I'm not going to be able to give everybody individual credit, but I'm grateful for their talents and energy put into the deck nonetheless. Now, let me cut. And while I'm doing this, let me go ahead and say, Virgo, that the card that fell, or that kind of flipped over, is a lagniappe card. And if you are a new viewer or you've never heard me explain what lagniappe means, lagniappe in Louisiana means a little something extra. So that extra card is a little something extra for this reading. We'll talk about it in just a minute. I've already cut the deck. Now what I'm going to do is pull out 4 cards. I'm going to pull the bottom card to represent the underlying theme or the overarching energy. And I'm going to pull the top 3 for clarity. And grab my Sage Goddess Oracle deck. I also want to remind you, or at least let you know, that there are some Virgos this reading may not resonate for. And if that's the case, and if that's you, that's alright. You've got more than just Virgo in you, love. You've got a little bit of each of the zodiac in you, because your chart, your natal chart, has 12 houses in it, each governed by a zodiac sign. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I invite you to Google the words free natal chart and have your birth certificate close by. Fill out that information and it will generate a birth chart for you that will show you where the planets were when you took your first breath on this planet. It'll show you where those planets were in perspective from where you were, or from your perspective on this planet. You know what I'm saying. Anyways, after you've generated that birth chart, I invite you to look up either YouTube tutorials or Google a tutorial on how to read a natal chart, and it will show you how to find your moon and rising sign placements. I encourage you to watch your moon and rising sign videos because there's messages there for you as well. But if you can't figure out your moon or rising, if you've done the tutorials and you're confused and you're not able to figure it out, you can send me a screenshot of the natal chart to sweetteastro@gmail.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible with those placements. That's a free service that I provide because I feel like that's something everybody should know about themselves. Not only so you can watch my videos, but you can watch other readers' videos, and it just helps you to know more about yourself. This deck is the Journey of Love Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild. Okay. The Divine Circus Oracle deck by Elena Fairchild. For my Virgo friends and viewers. From the Butterfly Oracle Cards for Life Changes by Doreen Virtue. Okay, Virgo, now what I'm going to do is hit the pause button, flip these cards over, do the tarot math, and I'll be right back with your story. Hang tight, y'all. I'll be right back. Hey, Virgo, I'm back with your cards, so let's get started. The underlying theme or overarching energy, well, not even that. The card that popped out while I was shuffling was the Fool in reverse. The Fool is the first card of the Major Arcana, but it's listed as a 0, and I see this normally as either an eclipse card or as a new moon card. This doesn't necessarily have to be about the eclipse, so this could be speaking to the planet Uranus, because the Fool is representative of that planet. The planet Uranus is known for its shocks and surprises. It's also known as being the Great Awakener. It's associated with change, liberation, and rebellion as well. This card indicates innocence, trust, and naivety. It could be that you feel as though the world has been turned upside down or the rug has been pulled from underneath your feet. You could feel head over feet as well. Now, you do have Uranus transiting that 8th house, and that is also where Venus will be retrograding. The 8th house is the house of Scorpio, and that's the house of other people's money and sexuality, also life, death, and rebirth. So that hits on the issues of the Venus retrograde of love and money, and also sexuality. Aries rules the head. It could feel like you are really head over feet for some of you. The underlying theme or overarching energy for this spread is the Ace of Swords. The swords represent air sign energy. The air signs are Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. You could be dealing with someone who has any of those signs as their sun, their moon, or their rising. You won't know that unless you know their chart or they've told you that information. This card is when I see any of the swords in reverse, I think of miscommunication, misrepresentation, deceit, possible lying, also arguments, and like drawing a line in the sand. And this could come out of nowhere. It could feel like it comes out of nowhere. There is silver lining in the situation, but you will have to dig to find it. If I were you, I would definitely be journaling during this time to help give you a better perspective on it after the fact. For a very small few of you, it may be involving like a surgery as well, or some sort of needing something cut. I'm not sure what that's about. Now, the top three for clarity, the first one is, it can represent the past if that's what you would choose it to, is the Hierophant in reverse. And this is the fifth card of the Major Arcana. It represents that fifth house on the astrological wheel, which is ruled by Leo. I like to think of that as the house of sparks. That is the spark of romance, the spark of life, or the spark of creation. It's also the house of that has your fingerprints and DNA all over it, because it's where you have the most skin in the game. It's your social life and your pleasure, it's where you go to blow off steam. It's where you fall in love and where you create your babies. This Hierophant card is representative of the zodiac sign of Taurus. You could be dealing with a Taurus moon, sun, or rising sign. This card can represent determination, but it also speaks to dealing with authority figures. And it's also dealing with like the search for, or the quest for meaning, and that can be spiritual or moral development as well. You do have Pluto transiting the fifth house. Pluto is the planet of deep transformation and deep change, and it's long-term change, but this change is, it's not super drastic normally. Normally it takes a long time. And the best equation, or the best analogy I can think of it, would be coastal erosion. It happens all the time. It's happening every day, every minute of every day, but especially here in Louisiana. But you can't really appreciate the damage or the loss of whatever's been taken away until you get a meta perspective, or you get to see a before and after picture. The fact that this card is in reverse could be that you are dealing with people who are in authority that are coming at you from a situation where they're being given misinformation. They're dealing with misinformation. Either they're giving the misinformation or they're being given the misinformation. It may be dealing with the fact that you are having a hard time reconciling what's going on spiritually. It could be the fact that you are dealing with a spiritual awakening, and it could be brought about through traumatic events, possibly. And I say traumatic events because that 8th house can feel like a traumatic house, and the fact that Uranus is going through that house, it can be one of those things where it is a shock, where it is a surprise. You may just have the attitude that you aren't, because I see this as like a card of institutions as well, like higher learning, where there's bureaucracy and there's protocol, and it's not just one person that has to give the answer. It goes through many different people's hands. the second card, which could represent the present, is the Ace of Cups in reverse. And this, the Cups is water sign energy. The water signs are Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces. You are having that Pisces solar eclipse in the 7th house. That 7th house is a part of where Venus will be going retrograde. The 7th house is the house of Libra. That is the house of your partnerships, your relationships, and how you identify who you are as an individual through those interactions with those people. It's also the house of open enemies and counseling. You have Neptune going through the 7th house as well. Neptune is the planet of nebulousness, illusion, imagination, also addiction. But you may be feeling the need to, or you may be wanting to turn over a new leaf and not be so emotional in your like work partnerships or something to that effect. I see this as like a geyser and a cup being put over it to try to suppress it. It feels like this is a suppressive energy. It could be that you may be dealing with either you're dealing with a relationship where you might be crushing on someone and they're not available and you're trying to keep it suppressed, or somebody may be crushing on you and they're keeping it suppressed. It could be that you're just feeling highly emotional right now, because the cups represent the emotional side of life. It can be your relationships, but it's also that gooey center. It's the things that emotionally validate you and sustain you and make you feel whole. And the fact that it's in the reverse could almost feel like, I mean, I see this as like tears and crying and sadness in some way. And that 8th house is an interesting house for Uranus to be in, to be transiting through. That's a pretty sensitive house for there to be shocks and surprises, to be constantly jolting in that area of life. And then to have Neptune right next to it, where it's that watery, the boundaries are hard to see. And it could be that you're dealing with someone who's having issues with boundaries. If it's not you, then it's someone that you know, or someone that's coming at you with boundary issues. The third card, representing the future, if you so choose, don't freak out, is the 16th card of the Major Arcana, the Tower. 1 plus 6 is 7, and that is the 7th house is the house of Libra, that partnership, relationship house. That's the house where you're going to be dealing with a solar eclipse at the end of February, and this is also where Venus will be going retrograde through, in that 7th house. Now, in the 7th house, this is where that trauma point or that crisis point may be arising, because that's exactly what this indicates, is a crisis point. The Tower is representative of the planet Mars. Mars is the planet of energy, impulse, and aggression. And at the time of this recording, Mars is in Aries. Mars rules Aries. Aries rules the head. Uranus is in Aries. Venus is in Aries. There's a lot of Aries energy going on. And Uranus, being the Great Awakener, it's like a bolt of lightning to the head, to the crown chakra, to the mind. It could be like after the eclipses, you see something in a completely different light, and or something is exposed, because that lunar eclipse is in the 12th house, and that's the house of secrets. And the eclipse is influencing this Venus retrograde. There's no doubt about it, just in the timing alone. We're going through eclipse season, and then not even a week after Venus is fully retrograde. There's no That's not a coincidence. There's a reason behind that. It's to give us more time to focus on that. But Mars, being in Aries, would also be your 8th house. And Mars is also a very sexually driven planet. It's the masculine planet. This card indicates it's a crisis point or a profound discovery or a profound illumination as well. And once again, notice people with their heads over their feet over their heads, like the rug's been pulled from underneath of them. The majority black background makes me want to remind you that it is always darkest before dawn, and the silver clouds also indicate that there is silver lining in the situation, no matter what it is that's going on. It could feel like a real surprise for you during this Venus retrograde, and it's some sensitive places where Venus is retrograding. Venus being the planet of love, beauty, harmony, money, and resources, going retrograde in between your 8th and 7th house. Your 8th house is the intimate house. It's sexuality. It's other people's money. It's life, death, and rebirth. That 7th house is your partnerships and your relationships. You could be dealing with issues of love and money between those two houses, and that can feel extreme. That can feel like you're dealing with a tower crashing down, because and the reason it's falling is because there's not a stable foundation. Okay, Virgo? Understand that. There's not a stable foundation there, so it needs to be stable. It has to be to code. So I did the tarot math for this spread. It ended up being 21. 2 plus 1 is 3, and that speaks to the Gemini-ruled house of short-distance trips, siblings, cousins, and neighbors, and your communication. Communication is how you speak, how others interpret you, and how you interpret others. It's also how you digest and consume information. It's your communication devices and getting your message out into the world. And it's also the commute that you have on a day-to-day basis. That would be the road or path that you take, but also the vehicle that you use. Now, I pulled for you from the Sage Goddess Gemstone Oracle. Oh, this is the first time this has ever came out. In a video reading. Apache Tear Obsidian. I'm sorry, both of my ears started ringing as soon as I said that. Apache Tear Obsidian. This deals with grounding, protection, and emotional healing, y'all. It can help heal and amplify the vibrations of the root and heart chakra. That Leo full moon. Leo rules the heart chakra. Just saying. The Apache Tear Obsidian grounds, protects, and heals. It also cleanses your emotional wounds. You've pulled this card because you are grieving and need support to release your emotions. Meditate with Apache Tear Obsidian to find your new hope, embrace joy, and release your pain to the infinite source of love. From the Journey of Love Oracle deck that I pulled for you, the 14th card, Falling. 1 plus 4 is 5, and that speaks to that Leo ruled house of sparks, where you go to blow off steam, where you have your fingerprints, DNA, all over the place, because it's where you have the most skin in the game. Your children, your creation, your social life, and your pleasure seeking. The house of your romance. It's interesting that it's the house of romance in this numerology, and the card is falling. You're being called closer into a divine union and into the fulfillment of your destiny. There's a Marilyn Monroe quote that goes something like this: "You can be the biggest, juiciest, ripest peach in the whole orchard, and there'll always be someone who doesn't like peaches." You are that ripe peach, Virgo. It's time for you to let go and fall. It's safe for you to trust what is happening now, so go with it. From the Divine Circus Oracle deck, the 17th card of that deck, Nebula Warrior. 1 plus 7 is 8, and that's that Scorpio house of life, death, and rebirth, other people's money, transformation, metamorphosis, and regeneration, primal, basic, or human instincts. The Nebula Warrior comes to you as an oracle of indication that you need healing and that you have the power to bring it about. Do all that you can do each day, and then allow yourself to rest. Listen to your body and rest when you need to rest. You should avoid your force or using your sheer will or powering through something to try to make it work or to dictate a situation. Embracing grace and attracting responses of assistance would better help you to gently guide the situation to an appropriate solution. So Virgo, be cool, be compassionate, and be smart. Strategize. Work smarter, not harder. The final card that was pulled for you from the Butterfly Oracle Cards for Life Changes by Doreen Virtue is Hobbies. How do you spend your free time? Is that an empowering or disempowering situation or answer for you? Hobbies can provide a stress outlet for some, and for others it can be so productive that it can turn a hobby into a career. If you had unlimited time and resources, what would you do for a hobby? Whatever your answer was just then, that is your inner truth. Now, find a way to do it on a dime, if need be, and enjoy your leisure time instead of just killing time. This card could also indicate that there needs to be an assessment of the balance between your work life and your play life. It could also be an oracle of indication on self-employment or a passion-based career, or it could just be nudging you to try something new. Virgo, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like, share, subscribe, and if you already have, I thank you from the bottom of my very grateful heart. I'll be around for the March readings. I can't believe I'm saying that. But I still have quite a few of these to shoot, so I've got to stop rambling. With that, I hope you're well. Please take care of yourself. Please be kind to yourself, and please save some of that kindness for others, because we're all going through private battles in our world that some of us may never speak about to another living soul. I'll see you soon, but until then, take care, namaste, and bye, Virgo.